Welcome to the Dr. Geo podcast. I am your host, Dr. Geo, where it is my goal to share with you all my clinical research so that you can improve your urological function and live better with age. Today, we're going to talk about being overweight or being obese and what does that really mean and how does it have an impact in your health, if at all. Let's get right to it. The definition of obesity is measured by body mass index, a calculation that divides your height with your weight, which is called a BMI, right? Body mass index. So a BMI over 30 is considered obese and a BMI over 25 is considered overweight. BMI in it by itself is a problematic tool to use. When you're looking at millions of people, it's an easy tool to use, but when you have a patient in your clinic or you are the patient in the clinic, it is a very poor tool to use. A better tool to use is waist to hip ratio. I'll tell you this, the skinny fat people really concern me. These are the people that you go to a party and you hate them because they eat like crazy and they look slim. So many of those people are skinny fat, meaning that if they do a body composition test, their body fat is 25, 30%, but you would never know because they look skinny. And if you measure your level of health only subjectively, looking at your scale, whether you weigh, 150 pounds and you're like 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", and that's the only way you measure your overall health, you're in trouble because you could be skinny fat. And what I've seen clinically is that people that are skinny fat are in bad shape. When you take their cholesterol level and your blood sugar levels and insulin levels, they have metabolic disease. So skinny fats, be careful. And then the skinny fat guy who has a big belly, that guy is in bad shape. So going back to waist to hip ratio, that is a much better tool. You cannot out-exercise a bad diet for proper weight loss. And I argue that is not weight loss that you're after. You're after waist loss. And that waist to hip ratio or just having a big belly versus having a, adequate sized belly is associated with what's called visceral fat. Visceral fat is the fat around your organs. And there's also periprostatic fat. That's the fat around your prostate. And that's been associated with a more advanced prostate cancer. So I think, and I haven't seen the evidence of this yet, I know that there's evidence that the bigger the waist, the more visceral fat there is. And that's why that's important to keep your belly weight low. Some body weight is okay. Actually, some body weight is favorable. Particularly, of course, if you work out, which is what I would recommend. And if you do strength training, in fact, studies show that obese people who eat healthy and exercise have a lower risk of premature mortality. And that goes back to the fact that you can only burn about 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day, because what the body tries to do evolutionarily is two things: keep you alive so that we can reproduce. That's the evolutionary reason for that. So if you are one of those overweight people that looked at skinny people and get jealous, and you kind of, those are the people you love to hate, don't, because actually it's a good thing to have some body weight. Okay. And of course, it has to be appropriate to your body type: ectomorph, mesomorph, and endomorph. Okay. But it's okay. Be happy with your body if you're one of those people that have had a hard time losing weight. So exercise is medicine. It's something that you should do daily without fail. And it's very important for your longevity. All right. So the zillion-dollar question: how do I lose weight? Look, unless your BMI is crazy high, in the 40s, we're not as interested in losing weight. Though if your BMI is high, it's nice to lose weight, but we're interested in losing waist size for most of us. So what's intermittent fasting? Well, intermittent fasting is a 16-8 approach, more or less, 14-10, where you don't eat any solid foods, any macronutrients. So you don't eat any protein, carbohydrates, or fats for about a 14 to 16 hour period. And you have your meals within an 8 to 10 hour period. I just find that that's a doable thing to do. As a Cuban guy, I like to eat. So I can't have these little meals throughout the day. and just restrict my calories throughout the day. And I think there's metabolic benefit to fasting. So I'd rather not eat for 16 hours and have 2 meals of whatever I want, typically healthy meals. But even if you are not quite sure what healthy means, or you still have some food addiction, no problem. Have 2 meals a day and almost whatever you want, and then do better with your nutrition, because it is important and it is good to eat well, and something like a plant-based diet, Mediterranean diet, DASH diet, combine them all. Those are all great diets, but only within 8 to 10 hour period, and no more than 2 meals a day and no snacking. And if when you exercise on a fasted state, but eat healthy, do intermittent fasting, and exercise. Those are the big three. I hope that today's podcast helped you understand how weight loss works, how BMI works, waist to hip ratio, metabolism, and how you can live your best life as you age. This is Dr. Gio signing off. I'll talk to you next time. Have a good one. Much love. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Dr. Gio podcast. You can watch all episodes of this podcast and much more by subscribing to my YouTube channel on youtube.com/Gio Espinoza ND. If you love what you heard today, you can help by leaving a 5-star review of the podcast on Apple and Spotify, as each review helps us reach more men who are serious about improving their urological health and how to function better with age. And for the latest research and actionable takeaways in the world of men's health and integrative urology, sign up for my newsletter at drgio.com. I'll see you next time. And now for a brief disclaimer. This podcast is for general information only, and we're not forming a doctor-patient relationship through this medium. The use of the information and all links associated with this podcast is at the listener's risk and is not to replace medical advice from a physician or a healthcare practitioner. Lastly, thoughts and opinions related to this podcast are my own and may not reflect the views of any institution or organization I'm associated with.